Hello, everyone. Apologies for the short delay in getting started here. It is so great to have all of you with us, and welcome to the Comcast NBCUniversal and Social Innovation Summit's virtual webinar. Today, we are here to talk about the community of creatives engaging and uplifting the next generation of storytellers. For those of you who I have not had the chance to meet personally, my name is Olivia Allan, and I serve as the Executive Vice President and Head of Events at Landmark Ventures. We host the Social Innovation Summit. For those of you who may not be familiar with Social Innovation Summit yet, we fondly refer to ourselves as SIS. We are a team, a platform, and a collective community with over 16 years of experience in designing ways to elevate groundbreaking ideas and innovative leaders who are changing the world for better. Today, I am so excited and honored. I've been asked to moderate today's discussion that we are proudly hosting alongside our friends at Comcast NBCUniversal. Today, we're focusing on the topic of broadening access to the creative economy, creating mentorship opportunities, and shining a light on community initiatives. Joining us today, we have an absolutely amazing panel of media and creative industry for an insightful conversation illuminating insights for impact and communication strategies for nonprofit organizations, with a key focus on utilizing diverse creatives as the storytellers. Now, before we dive in, just a few housekeeping notes. If you'd like to turn on closed captioning, you can do so simply by navigating to the bottom of your Zoom window and selecting Show Captions. Additionally, at the end of our panel discussion, as time allows, we'll be throwing it over to you, our esteemed audience, for questions to our panel. So you are welcome to submit the questions through the Zoom Q&A function throughout the event. And with that, it is my very, very sincere pleasure to welcome to our stage a partner and friend of the Social Innovation Summit, Hilary Smith, who serves as the Executive Vice President of Corporate Social Responsibility at NBCUniversal. She's going to talk about how NBC is leveraging their platform for social good before we get started. Hilary, over to you.
Thank you, Olivia, and thank you to the Social Innovation Summit for hosting this. We are super excited to talk about storytelling and using storytelling for social good. And I just want to back up by saying that I think the hallmark of a great corporate social responsibility campaign is to leverage your company's expertise to do good in the world. And at NBCUniversal, we really zeroed in as storytelling as our superpower. And we launched something called the Creative Impact Lab to leverage our storytelling skills. And the lab has three main goals. One is to empower the next generation of creators and help them break into this industry. Secondly, we want to shine a light, use our media assets to shine a light on the amazing work that our nonprofit partners are doing. And lastly, we put employees at the center of all of our social impact initiatives. And so using our employees to help them give back their creative talents to the up-and-coming creatives in the industry. So I think we're going to throw to a video that explains how the Creative Impact Lab comes to life.
NBCUniversal knows the power of storytelling.
You want to see something cool?
And is harnessing that power to give back to communities. Young creatives need professional training and experience telling stories. Nonprofits need their stories told. That's why NBCUniversal launched the Creative Impact Lab. Here's how it works. NBCUniversal provides grants to nonprofits that operate like creative agencies. They produce marketing assets for other NBCUniversal nonprofit partners to illustrate their positive impact.
It's a real validating experience. It's an investment in communities, but also taking a systemic view of how work like this leads to opportunities. It's visionary.
The agencies employ paid apprentices from underrepresented backgrounds, helping them learn our trade and fostering pathways into the industry.
I think the best part of working on the NBC project was being able to work in the team. It's awesome, you know? You think of an idea and then you actually make it happen.
Along the way, NBCUniversal employee volunteers with creative expertise provide feedback and guidance to the apprentices.
Our apprentices have been incredibly easy to work with. Most of all, it's been really cool to share the resources that we have with them to bring their ideas to life and use what they already have to make it even better.
The final assets created in the lab are amplified across the platforms and networks of NBCUniversal and Comcast, providing these nonprofit organizations valuable exposure.
It's a gift. It increases our asset set, and it has us in a position to tell our story on a far broader, bigger stage.
The Creative Impact Lab achieves one of NBCUniversal's key missions, empowering the next generation of diverse creative talent while highlighting the critical work of its nonprofit partners, one story at a time.
Thank you so much, Hilary, for the warm welcome to our audience. Our SIS team has just shared with me that we have over 500 VIP executives, investors, and social impact leaders online with us today. Hilary, thank you for the insightful overview. The Creative Impact Lab is just really special and is having an amazing impact on empowering the next generation of storytellers. I know I'm speaking on behalf of the 500 people plus watching us right now that they're excited to hear you speak more as a panelist coming up soon. Before that, I wanted to give some time for perspective and insights from Keisha Center. She is the Senior Vice President of Culture and Impact at Monkey Paw Productions. Monkey Paw is the production company of the groundbreaking filmmaker Jordan Peele. Keisha is a globally recognized executive known for delivering game-changing impact at the intersections of politics, entertainment, philanthropy, and fashion. Now, unfortunately, Keisha had a last-minute conflict that prohibited her from being with us today live, but she asked that we share the following pre-recorded video with you, which we will do right now.
Hello, everyone. I'm so sorry that I couldn't be there today for the amazing and dynamic panel discussion that you're about to have with some of my colleagues, but I'm Keisha Center, and I am the SVP of Culture and Impact at Monkey Paw Productions, where I lead social impact and cultural strategies and campaigns that support our film and television slate. We develop partnerships with organizations and community and mobilize communities around issues that are addressed in our storytelling. I get the opportunity to work with some of the most dynamic studios, nonprofit organizations, and filmmakers and storytellers from all across the world. One of the reasons why this panel was so important to us is because engaging the next generation of storytellers and uplifting their voices and their stories is truly to what we do at our company. It's our ethos. It's part of our values. We really focus on how can we tell the stories of those who are underrepresented and those who aren't traditionally have their voices heard in front of and behind the camera. And we do it in fun and scary ways. Some of the things that are examples of how we've been working on this across all of our content over the last 2 to 3 years has been looking at various programs from Candyman to Nia DaCosta's Candyman, where we looked at the impact of Black horror and talked with mental health professionals and artists about how we can really focus on celebrating Black excellence and celebrating the necessary tools and guidance that we need to make sure that artists and Black creators are supported. And we did that through really looking at our protagonists in Candyman and building an impact strategy around that helped people mobilize communities all the way to college campuses. We've also worked deeply with Jordan Peele's Note that came out last year, and we looked at how do we look at storytelling all the way from the content that we're creating, but then also on what I like to call our splinter projects that come out from that. So we partnered with Meta and looked at how do we take storytellers and fans into the metaverse by building out IP within our property. We also partnered with fashion designer Jide Asafeso, where we looked at how do we continue to give audiences and fans more ways to connect with our content, and we built out a fashion line that built a story around storytelling around that. And then as part of our fashion line that sold out immediately, we looked at how to partner with Compton Cow and give them a donation to continue the great work they do on equine therapy in various parts of the country, but specifically in Compton, Los Angeles. We've done this across all of our projects. We're not template specific, but we are specific on the intent to mobilize and to tap down into culture and to meet audiences where they are, and to give our core audiences the tools that they need to love and continue to relate to our content, but find new creative derivatives and interacting in innovative ways to connect with new audiences. And we will continue to do that, from podcasts to supporting issues that are of the moment and that are truly impacting the world as a whole. And then also, as we look into dive into fun and exciting content across from our innovation around our work around Doing Wild, which was on Netflix last year, and it was looking at animation and telling a story through a young punk Black girl protagonist, and how do we connect in and help other young girls like that feel seen. Thank you so much, and I hope our conversation doesn't stop here. If you're interested in learning more about what Monkey Paw is working on across our film and television and culture and impact work, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I would love to meet you, and I would love to learn more about possible ways that we could work together. Everyone here today is committed to creating dynamic storytellers and engaging and diversifying our industry. So it's such a pleasure to spend a little time with you, and I look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day and enjoy the discussion.
All right, so it's time to jump into the conversation. I am thrilled to welcome back to the stage our partner and friend, Hilary Smith, who again is the Executive Vice President of Corporate Social Responsibility at NBCUniversal, Tyler Reaver, who is the Senior Creative Director at Charity Water, which is the nonprofit bringing clean and safe drinking water to people in need around the world, and Dennis St. Rose, who serves as an executive at the CAA Foundation, the philanthropic arm of the leading talent and sports agency, Creative Artist Agency. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for being here today. I would love to get started. I gave a short intro, but I'd love for each of you to introduce yourself and tell us a little about your work and background in creative storytelling. Tyler, I'm gonna throw it to you first. I happen to know a few things, including that you got some inspiration from a trip to Rome, and that you're also a Nebraska native. So let's start there.
Oh my gosh, you went deep. Yeah, well, hello everyone. My name is Tyler Reaver. I'm the Senior Creative Director at a nonprofit organization called Charity Water that is working to bring clean and safe drinking water to every person on the planet. Charity Water is really a fundraising organization. We take 100% of the money we raise and we send it to our local partners around the world. These are large INGOs and small local NGOs, experts with years of proven experience in delivering access to clean water, and that looks different in every country and different regions of countries. The problem is different, the solution is different. So these are people who are working hard to serve their own people. And the fundraising distinction is important because it means that my entire job is rooted in storytelling, trying to introduce a problem to people who likely haven't experienced it, and hoping to make it feel important to them, trying to make something very foreign and very far away feel much more real. I would imagine most of the folks on this call have never had to think about where you would get your water if it didn't come out of a sink or a refrigerator. Is it a pond? Is it a river nearby? What does that water look like? How dirty is dirty water? Is it brown? Is it orange? Is it red? So that's my role in the organization, trying to get you to think about that. And I lead a team of writers and designers and filmmakers who are constantly working to inspire action so that we can end the water crisis in our lifetime. I have not always worked in the nonprofit space. Prior to Charity Water, I spent about 10 years in advertising, helping for-profit brands do some of the same work, thoughtfully telling stories and trying to inspire audiences to take action. I am originally from Nebraska, and the story, just very briefly, is I went to Rome for spring break in college. I had a crush on a girl who said, let's get a group of people together, and I bought a ticket. Nobody else did. But it was an opportunity for me to be alone and often humiliated, and then telling stories back to my family via the internet. And that was really where my love for storytelling came from, getting to take an experience that I thought most people might not get to have and share it along the way. So that's where it began for me.
Amazing. Thank you, Tyler. And I really enjoy just the authenticity of a trip to Rome turning into a career of storytelling. Next, Dennis, I'd love to turn it over to you. We want to know a little bit more about your journey to creative storytelling and background.
Sure. And I unfortunately don't have a trip to Rome to share about, but I hope that you find my background is as interesting as Tyler's. First, I want to say thank you to the Social Innovation Summit for gathering us all here today for this discussion. I've been looking forward to it since I was asked. I'm Dennis St. Rose. I'm an executive with the CA Foundation. And as Olivia shared, we are the oldest philanthropic arm of all the major agencies. We started in 1995, and what started in service to our colleagues, helping them join boards, engaging them in serving the communities where we have offices, offering support and uplifting the causes and issues and orgs that they care about, and also providing resources in times of crisis. Continue to bleed into our work with our clients and has really become core to everything we do. And when we're working with our clients, that includes launching nonprofits, connecting them to nonprofit organizations that have an authentic connection to our clients' social impact and philanthropic goals. And as part of our work in the foundation, we also launch initiatives in which we harness the power to affect positive social change, the power of the entertainment industry. And one of those is one that I lead, which is the Full Story Initiative, which focuses on narrative change. That is a centralized hub for our storytelling clients, so our writers, our producers, our directors, our social media influencers, to connect with leading nonprofits and best-in-class subject matter experts who can help them tell more authentic and compelling stories through support and research. We identify opportunities to explore and bolster stories that feature diverse populations and touch on various social issues that are affecting society. And these partnerships between our clients and organizations and the subject matter experts can range from script consultation all the way to what does it mean to give a film or a television show legs through social impact ancillary marketing. My story and why I got into working on storytelling, narrative change, is I was inspired by the work of Dr. Jay Winston. And for those of you who aren't familiar with him, high-level overview, a esteemed professor from Harvard Public Health observed what was happening in Scandinavian countries in an effort to curb drunk driving deaths. He assessed what was happening in our own country and noticed parallels and saw what they did in order to curb these deaths was not only engaging with the grassroots efforts that were already happening, but also engaging media, getting media behind, putting out messaging, putting out terms like designated driver, wearing buckle up, and all of these things into constant rotation and meeting people where they are. He took that back to the major networks at the time, which were like Fox, CBS, and NBC, and got them, or CBS, NBC, and ABC, and got them to buy in to incorporate terms like designated driver, the act of simply giving someone your keys when you're at a bar, when you've had too much to drink, all of this into their current programming. So it showed up in shows like LA Law and Cheers and The Cosby Show. And that, coupled with the efforts of groups like MAD and SAD, did affect change. It did cause a downturn in teen drunk driving deaths. And we know it worked even more so because the term designated driver became part of the American lexicon. So it's something that's been proven. I think that beyond engaging influencers to push for change and using them as a voice, which is a very useful tool, sometimes the best way to meet people where they are is through the content they consume, through the stories that we all love, the characters that we empathize with and we identify with. So that is why I got into this line of work.
Super inspiring. And I absolutely agree that, the lexicon can be changed through amazing storytelling. So Hilary, our host today, you already opened with some of the things that are happening at Creative Impact Lab and NBC, but we'd love to just hear from you too about your background and how did you get into creative storytelling at such a massive and impactful place?
Sure. Well, I would say, I had a very untraditional path into CSR. I started out as a communications executive, and for, over 2 decades, had a career in various PR and publicity jobs. And this, in the last 5 years, have parlayed that into social impact. And I will say it is probably one of the most valuable backgrounds you could have to do what I do now, because, as my fellow panelists have said here today, having the right story and a story that resonates is key to drive change and to make a social impact. And if I, look at our nonprofit partners almost as our clients and think about, what can we do for them as a company? What do they need the most? Nonprofits need to scale. They need to attract funds to keep expanding. They need to attract volunteers, and they need to ensure that they have constituents, members of their organizations. And to do all of those things, it's imperative that they have good marketing and a way to get their story out and to break through. There are so many, I think there's over 1.5 million organizations that are registered 501c3 organizations. And so when you think about competing for attention, it's almost impossible. And there's so many worthwhile causes. And so how do you get people to, recognize your cause and your organization? It's storytelling. And so I think my background in communications has really served me well to help nonprofits with their storytelling and to engage our own employees to share their storytelling skills with nonprofits.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. And I can hear the passion in your voice. So your colleagues and your NBCUniversal colleagues and employees are very lucky to have you, because I can hear the passion in your voice. So I'm going to bounce around. So, feel free to jump in, anyone who wants to answer questions at this point. But I'd love to start with just sort of elaborating more on the significance of the proximate creatives in the context of our brands and storytelling initiatives. So my first question is really, what are the key elements to creating a compelling brand narrative and communicating a story or a message? And how does the selection of a particular storytellers and creatives play into that? So I'll open it up to whomever wants to jump in first.
I can jump in.
Sorry.
You first.
No, well, I just wanted to start by, just talking about, especially as it relates to our nonprofit friends out in the audience there, like what makes a successful social movement and what their goals are. And we know that there's two methods of approach. One is policy driven. So it's engaging stakeholders, changing legislation, challenging an institution. And the other is more culturally focused. So it's reaching individuals, building knowledge, changing their attitude, changing behavior. And we know that, these can't operate in a silo. They need to operate together. And storytelling is a big part of that second one. The policy change that you're looking for, the challenging an institution can't happen if you don't get buy-in from your audience, if you don't build up that groundswell from the public. So storytelling plays such a key role. And the way to break through to audiences is really to meet them where they are through trusted and authentic voices. So identifying those voices that really can pierce public consciousness, and it needs to be done in a way that is it's careful. You can't just pick any voice to tell your story. You need to understand who your audience is and what their wants and needs are, and what barriers are in place that are currently stopping the message that you want to get out there from breaking through. So you need to find the voices that can break through that noise. You want to build trust. You want to build empathy. You want them to see themselves in that storyteller. If it's a polarizing issue, you want to find common ground through the messengers who are like your audience. You want to recruit potentially trusted middle of the road storytellers. It's all about finding those authentic voices that can help you tell your story. So an example that I always use is, and this is not from my personal thing, it's something I say especially when I used to work with nonprofits. If you're trying to work with young Black men in Chicago, and you're hoping to, you know, stop the gun violence deaths that are happening in Chicago, that are affecting Black and brown communities at such a high rate, and you're trying to tell the story. Yes, Tom Hanks, who I love, maybe, you know, he may have a new film coming out and he's really hot right now, but Tom Hanks wouldn't be the best messenger for that. He wouldn't be the best storyteller. You need to find someone that can connect to that community, that can connect to the folks that are affected from that issue, that can understand, that will help them understand and think about what's happening. What can I do? How can I take action? What needs to change, and how can I leverage my own voice? If they see someone delivering that message that they can identify with, it's going to be a lot more effective.
Absolutely. I think I love this idea of sort of mirroring your audience. Hilary, did you want to jump in next there?
Sure. I mean, I would echo a lot of what Dennis said, and we sit down with nonprofits in the lab every day to talk about, you know, what's the most effective way to tell your story. And the number one thing that I tell our nonprofits is people don't just want to see, you know, talking heads, executive directors of their organizations, you know, sort of, you know, explaining their mission. You know, while that's very important, your audience, you know, if we're trying to evoke emotion and empathy, as Dennis said, and the way to do that is to speak to the people who have already been impacted by that nonprofit's work. So, you know, it could be a student whose life was changed, you know, by the nonprofit, or, you know, a kid who got into sports through, you know, there's an organization we work with called Laureus, and, you know, we showcase some of those children who built confidence, you know, from Laureus's programs, but, you know, really showing the people who are impacted. And then again, choosing the right medium to tell that story. We worked with an organization called LA Works. They galvanize volunteers in the LA area for projects. And they said to us, the people who are most engaged in terms of volunteers are the younger generation who are on social media. And so we did a series of TikTok videos in the lab for LA Works, because again, as Dennis said, you want to meet your audience where they are. And I will say, I'm so glad Tyler is on this panel, because I think Charity Water is sort of the gold standard for evoking emotion and telling these amazing stories through the eyes of the people that were, you know, impacted. I remember seeing a Charity Water video where, you know, a well springs up in a town, you know, where there was previously no water, and the joy and the dancing children. And I mean, I don't know who could watch that and not want to, you know, open their wallets or volunteer or do something for Charity Water. So I'm going to throw it to you, Tyler, because I think you guys do it so well.
Well, thank you. And I agree with everything that's been said so far. I think when you're a brand that's thinking about storytelling, it's often tied to a product, and it almost has to be, right? Because we're all selling something, even as a nonprofit organization. For Charity Water, our product at its simplest is water. But a lot of brands make the mistake of making the story about the product, or making it about themselves. A talking head on screen is probably an example of that. And I think the most compelling version is really the opposite. It's about the people who benefit from your product and the way your product impacts the person who's ultimately using it. So for us, that's about families who are getting access to clean water. And the story isn't about the solar powered pipe system or the tap stand outside their home. It's about a mom who has more time to invest in earning income for her family, and gets to take care of a healthy family, doesn't have to worry about spending money unnecessarily on trips to a health clinic, and gets to see her kids who have never had to imagine the life that she grew up with, thinking about different futures as scientists and engineers. For us, it's really coming at it from a position of hope instead of guilt. And so much of the charity that I grew up with, probably a lot of you felt like it was very guilt driven. And we know that guilt works. It definitely gets people to give. But it's almost a moment to try to make the feeling go away. And it's not a sense of investment. I think for us, we're telling stories about a problem that is going to take a long time to solve. And we want people to feel invested in solving it with us. And we don't want to represent a person that we meet by their circumstance. Every single person is more than their circumstance. So, you know, trying to do justice to the lives that people live without access to clean water and are unbelievably happy. So it's not about guilt for us. It's about choosing to focus on the difference that we can make and trying to make people feel powerful in creating that change over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's meeting people where you are, as you said, Dennis, as well, that you're shining a light on those that can really bring the most impact to the people. So let's talk a little bit about platforms. You all have really amazing platforms, arguably some of the most important out there. So how can we have a broader community benefit by engaging proximate storytellers? So beyond our own bottom line, what are the knock-on effects from engaging diverse storytellers? That could be either from a direct economic perspective or representation perspective or any other angle, both for the creatives themselves and for the broader communities. Dennis, I don't know if you want to jump in there first.
Yeah, so through our work with Full Story, it's something, that question is something that I tackle quite a bit. Just going back in my previous role, my clients were nonprofits, so I did spent a lot of time advising nonprofits, and now I'm kind of on the other side, but I still partner with the nonprofits to help our clients tell these stories that need to be told. And coming from that nonprofit background, and kind of the inside, well, not inside baseball, but the thought that, you know, nonprofits have, that I've had in the past, and we all should have, is that we're in this to change hearts and minds. That's what's most important. When I'm talking to our clients or talking to production companies or studios or whatever, that is all well and good, but you actually hit the nail on the head when you talked about the bottom line. There is concern about that. And what we do know is that when you do tell diverse stories, when you do tell inclusive stories, when people see themselves in characters on screen or through campaigns or whatever it is, they tune in, they show up, they spend money. That's the truth. We actually did a study about 2 years ago, and this can be found online with UCLA Center for Scholars and Storytellers, called the AIR study, Authentic Inclusive Representation Study, which tracked viewership over the course of I believe it was two television series, two film seasons, years, tracking the most watched films, and seeing and rating. We linked up with a few nonprofits that were able to kind of identify markers within these films, whether they were touching on the Black community, Hispanic community, whether it was accurate depictions of caregiving, whatever it was, and we had them grade them, these films, on a scale from 0 to 5, 5 being the best. And there was a direct correlation between the films that scored highest on the AIR score to the ones that performed the best in the box office. So we know this. We know that if we make the effort to tell and show diverse perspectives, more people are going to tune in, more people are going to spend their money. So that's what I try and remind or share with our clients that are concerned, and the people that we work with, the people that are producing the content, that are concerned about, is this really going to help me? Like, why can't I just put out this, this campaign or this television show or whatever? Do I really need to tell an authentic story? Do I really need to include these voices? You do, because you're going to only help yourself. You're going to engage communities. You're going to have people talking about that episode or that campaign. It's going to pull at people's heartstrings. So it's important for, obviously changing hearts and minds, but it does help the bottom line.
Tyler, your Charity Water is arguably one of the most successful nonprofits that I can think of in terms of bottom line. So perhaps you can share a little bit from a nonprofit perspective. Like, what does that mean to you, and how do you approach that as a creative director?
Yeah, I think what's kind of fun from my perspective is that bottom line is not just fundraising. It's about global change. And one of the aspects I love about, last year we kicked off a local storyteller network. We're trying to bring in local photographers or filmmakers or journalists who live in places where we work, who can help capture stories on behalf of Charity Water. But we're often working in places where there might be a huge gender gap. There might be cultural expectations where just by bringing somebody onto our team, and giving them a platform to share their work, we are creating, maybe helping to change the narrative on a local level. So last year, we were kicking off this program in Sierra Leone and looking for a photographer for that trip. Sierra Leone has a huge gender gap, very little opportunities for women to lead, women to work in prominent roles, but also a country where our local partners trying to actively champion change and create opportunities for women. So it felt really important for us to find a local storyteller who could have a really personal perspective and be invested in the story we're telling, but also use that entire experience to help maybe create a little bit of progress in Sierra Leone, create a conversation in Sierra Leone. We found a remarkable woman named Grace who's running a local NGO called Girls Behind the Lens, who's doing a lot of work for women on her own right. So it was beneficial beyond water. It was about creating a larger change in a country like Sierra Leone.
That's great. I love this. The fundraising is about global change. So I think that should stay with all of us. Hilary, your team works quite a lot with many different types of creators inside of the lab. What types of challenges and hurdles are you seeing, and how are those challenges being addressed?
I mean, I would say it's interesting. So we work with a lot of apprentices, that come from their students, so they come from underrepresented communities. They may not have had, the luxury of, going to, going through professional training or, a college, where they could focus on this as their major. And so, we sometimes have to remind ourselves that, like, a lot of this is about building soft skills too, right? Like, you have to sit down with your client and discuss with them what is your communication strategy, and then the apprentices have to be advisors to the client and tell them, what they think will work in terms of the narrative. And I would say, I wouldn't necessarily call them challenges, but it is sort of learning on the job, if you will, where a lot of our apprentices are, learning things like budgeting, or it's one thing to be able to create a spot, but did you know that there are certain specifications that the content needs so that it's ready for air? So learning sort of the technical, trade side of it, learning the soft skills, as I mentioned. And then I think what's so great is that we have our mentors on each one of these projects. So, if you're an apprentice with, RealWorks, for example, or Reimagine ATL or Urgent, those are some of our nonprofit creative partners, your mentors are, possibly the Today Show producer, the Olympics producer. So you're almost, it's like a master class that you're getting in, all of these, amazing skills that you get from the mentors. And I think the mix of having these diverse apprentices with the NBC mentors ensures diversity of perspective, but also, helping this next generation grow into the creatives of the future. So it feels like the right recipe for success for us.
What an amazing way. I mean, when we think about talent ecosystem, kudos to you and your team for really creating the next generation of storytellers. I'd love to, Dennis, do you want to weigh in on that as well? It feels like you've got access to, I know you've got a lot of access to amazing, incredible talent. How are you also working at CAA to expand the talent ecosystem?
Yeah, so that comes as a result of our relationships with the nonprofits that we support, specifically through our narrative change efforts and Full Story initiative. A lot of the organizations that we work with are constantly championing up and coming storytellers from diverse backgrounds. So, for example, we support the CAA Foundation supports the Muslim Public Affairs Council's work with young Black Muslim filmmakers whose projects are in development through financial contributions and also through mentorship with some of our established creators. We also do something similar with the Coalition of Asian Pacifics in Entertainment, CAPE. We support alumni from their New Writers Fellowship, which is discovering and nurturing emerging AAPI writers, launching their careers in television and film, the same financial contributions and also mentorship opportunities with our more established clients. So we're utilizing our established clients to help nurture and uplift and give these next voices, next generation voices opportunities. We also, one of the things that through Full Story that we do, an example is an organization like Respectability, which actually has a almost Rolodex of working writers that are out there that are from the disabled community that otherwise are being looked over. And we help amplify this Rolodex to our clients, saying, if you're going to tell a story about a disabled person, you should consider hiring someone as part of your, if it's a television show, part of your writing staff that is disabled, that can give an authentic point of view in your story, that can help advise your story as it goes. And this is not meant to be a cop-out. I think there should be more disabled writers that are leading these projects, but this is a step in the right direction. Is if you're going to tell these stories, get someone in the room who can authentically weigh in. I think that's very important. But those are the types of things that we do to help uplift the next generation of storytellers that are specifically coming from diverse experiences and diverse backgrounds.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So as promised, I'm going to start taking some questions from our audience. So to make sure they feel really engaged here. So Tyler, I'm going to throw this one over to you. This is coming from an audience member from Brooklyn. How can individuals who may not have had a traditional platforms for storytelling find avenues to share their stories and contribute to a more inclusive narrative?
Ooh. I think the platform is becoming increasingly less, is becoming less important. Like I know having an audience helps, but there's so much opportunity for content to blow up. So I think my recommendation would be you still invest. It's really hard for nonprofits in particular to create the space to do storytelling. A lot of pushback around the budget and investing in it, and what is the value? How do we prove the value? Oftentimes it's programmatic people who get put into a place of trying to tell stories for the organization. I think you have to take the chance. You have to be able to prove it one at a time. But I don't know that it's platform specific. At least get out there and experiment. YouTube is an infinite gift for people. It is, especially younger audiences. It's a place where people go to search, to learn, to be entertained. So there is an audience waiting for you if you can create good content. TikTok is probably the same way. You can go from no following to 500,000 followers in a moment. If you're being really thoughtful about the content you're creating. So I think for me, it's really, you got to take the chance. You got to be willing to invest in it and take a little bit of risk.
That's great. And I love how you're sending, as a creative director, you're sending your team out to locations all the time and are intimately involved in meeting them and understanding. So I thank you for that. I have another question that just came through. This is coming from New Jersey, but it's not from anyone in particular. So anyone can jump in and answer it because you're all involved in the question. How can individuals here, your 500 plus audience, think about collaborating with NBC, CAA, and Charity Water? Are there opportunities to apply for the Creative Impact Lab? So maybe Hilary, you can kick us off.
Sure. Well, it depends if you want to be a client of the lab or you want to be a creative in the lab. For the creative piece, I would say there is an organization that we partnered with called the Alliance for Creative Arts and Media. And they are the first federally registered paid apprenticeship program in the creative industry. And if you get in touch with them, they can turn you on to all of these nonprofit creative agencies that we give grants to. And they have tons of opportunity. And I would say, in answer to the last question too, that's another great way to break in on the creative side. If you want to be a client of the lab, we are currently going through NBC and Comcast's existing roster of nonprofit partners. But we're always looking for more partners, so there's opportunity in the future. We have 3 pillars of nonprofit partners that we try to focus on. If you fall into any one of those 3, you could certainly be considered, and they are building stronger communities, empowering the next generation of storytellers, and promoting media and technology skills.
Great, thank you. Anyone else want to jump in on that one?
I'm from New Jersey, so I have to say something for from New Jersey. I just say, in order to partner in CA and specifically the Full Story Initiative, if you are a representative of a nonprofit, you work with a nonprofit, I encourage you to find me on LinkedIn, reach out. Like I am always eager to meet representatives from nonprofits and talk to them about what their priorities are, how we can engage our clients to partner and uplift, how both our personalities, our athletes, our actors, our social media influencers, but also like getting an idea of what story you're trying to tell and who you're trying to reach, and encouraging you to think about how you get that into the culture, how you break through. And I'm happy, to walk through with anyone, like the do's and don'ts of talking to creators, the fine line you have to walk. You can't tell a successful writer what to write, but you can give them considerations. You can, say from your expert opinion, like, these are things that might be triggering, or this could be problematic. And the writers are very receptive to that. The creators are very receptive to that. So I'm happy to have that conversation with anyone out there. Please reach out. I'm always looking for new nonprofit partners.
Oh, I love that. And that's what Social Innovation Summit is all about. So thank you for saying that. I'm going to ask one last question, and I'd love for each of you to answer. What excites you most about the future generation entering this industry? Hilary, do you want to start as our host?
Sure. Well, there's two things that excite me, and I don't know, the first one is not necessarily specific to the creative industry, but I am blown away, at least by the employees at NBCUniversal, on the enthusiasm for volunteering. And our mentors in the lab, I figured they'd each do one project and then I'd have to recruit a whole new cohort of mentors. And almost every one of them has raised their hand to do it again. So that is so encouraging and optimistic as far as I'm concerned. And then I would just say, storytelling is here to stay, right? The platforms may change, where we watch those stories may change, but it is the best way to break through. And so, everything that we're doing to make storytelling more effective, whether that's for nonprofits, or frankly for any marketing needs, I think is the way of the future.
Great. Thank you so much, Dennis.
Yeah, what excites me is this next generation that's coming up. They really, really grasp the importance and the value of impactful storytelling. Not to say that other generations did not, but this generation, you've got so many more Shonda Rhimes out there, so many more Norman Lears out there that are all thinking about, how can I tell an impactful story? How can I reflect society? How can I push for change? In the conversations that I have with up and coming writers, they're all looking to make sure that a certain group's voice is heard, to highlight a social issue that they know that there's an opportunity to make change on. That is so inspiring to me, and I'm very excited to be a connector. I'm not a creator by any means, but I'm happy to draw the dots between these folks that have these stories to tell, and the established folks that are out there that can have the power to tell these stories. I think it's an incredible opportunity, and I am looking forward to what we see in the future. I think it's Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. I really do believe that there's power in the pen, and the storytellers that are out there have an incredible responsibility to do so in a way that advances society. So I'm looking forward to see what happens.
Fantastic. I love we got Spider-Man in there. Tyler, any closing remarks from you?
Agreed. The thing I'm excited about with the younger generation is that they are wired for inclusion and authenticity. They are already countering so much of what they've encountered their entire lives. They've been marketed to, over-marketed to, spammed. They're sick of algorithms. They will buck the system and they don't care. I think my generation has felt powerless around certain topics and just kind of resilient, or have resigned to the fact that we can't change this. Government is broken, whatever your opinion is. This is too big to fix. And I think the next generation is saying, No, we're going to do it differently. We're just going to find a different way to do it. So I'm really excited to see the way they tell stories and the types of stories they tell.
Hear, hear. We are going to do it differently indeed. I want to just highlight in a couple of things. Hope instead of guilt, hearts and minds, meeting audiences where they are. And Tyler, as you just close with it, the youth is wired to be the change that will actually reverberate for many years to come. Thank you to our incredible panelists and our very VIP audience for tuning in and being with us today. I'm so excited for what's next. Thank you, Hilary, to you and your NBCUniversal team. We're so proud of what you're doing at the Creative Impact Lab and have been partnered with you throughout the year. Thank you to our Social Innovation Summit community. Just letting you know, we will be in Chicago for holiday cocktails in December, on December 6th. So please feel free to visit our website, socialinnovationsummit.com, for more information. Our Social Innovation Summit flagship summit, get ready for it, June 4th through the 5th in Chicago, Illinois. And we are actively working to identify marquee participants and still have opportunities for partnerships and speakers. You can find out more again at our website, socialinnovationsummit.com, or you can always reach out to me directly, as some of our panelists said. I answer my LinkedIn. So if you are reaching out and are interested in partnership, we absolutely want to hear from you. And I would be honored to hear from you personally. Thank you so much again, Hilary, Keisha, Dennis, and Tyler. I am wishing everyone a fantastic finish to 2023 and an incredible 2024 to come. Thank you for being here.